Hello, this is Carrie from Cookbook Divas, and I'm here with Katie, our main writer, and we decided it would be fun to do a podcast because there's so many interesting cookbooks coming out, and I'm getting so many interesting cookbooks on the backlist via my library that we have so much to talk about every week. We don't always necessarily want to throw on makeup and do videos for you because that's a lot of work. So this way, you can hear about all the exciting new cookbooks. We are Cookbook Divas, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, sometimes Pinterest, and on YouTube. And now you can find us on our new podcast, which we're going to try to upload to Apple and StreamYard and or Streamcast. We are using an app, speaking of StreamYard, called StreamYard, where we can broadcast together at the same time because, of course, the pandemic, Katie and I cannot be in the same room together because we're in different households. So for safety, we're using StreamYard to make our podcast. Hello, Katie. Good morning.
Good morning.
What have you been looking at cookbook-wise today? You've been doing some research on all the cookbooks that are coming out in February, and apparently there's a big glut of them. And glut is a negative word. There's a big, amazing amount of them coming out in March.
Yes, there's a whole bunch coming out in March. But yeah, there's actually quite a few coming out in February as well.
I'm really curious because, of course, in the fall and winter, all the cookbooks that come out are like pie this and pie that and holiday cooking and baking, cakes, cookies, desserts, la, 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 comfort food. And then in January, anything new that came out was like, we need to eat healthy. Here's the healthy cookbook. And like, was it just me or were there a million air fryer cookbooks? Like, no, I don't.
Yeah, that's true. There were a whole bunch of air fry, which is weird. I mean, it's still frying, I guess. But yeah, no, it's true.
I didn't feel the need to buy one personally. Like, I don't need an air fryer cookbook. It's not tempting. And I'm not keto, but there were a lot of keto books coming out. And if you don't mind me being nosy in front of our audience, what is you're gluten-free, but you tried an experiment this month?
I did. So I actually got a book called Unprocessed, or hold on, let me find it. It's a vegan, plant-based cookbook. So we've been trying the Earthy Andy cookbook.
And you also tried some of the Whole Smiths cookbook too?
A little bit. Not fully on that one. We didn't purchase that cookbook, so it hasn't been readily available. But with Earthy Andy's cookbook, I bought that. It looked the most appealing, mostly because it's like all tropical and it's, wintertime in the Pacific Northwest. So it was like, oh, tropical. So the actual cookbook is called Plant Over Processed by Earthy Andy. And it's been a really interesting experience for sure.
It seems hard to be gluten-free and then restrict your diet more with now we're going to take out dairy and...
Yeah. Actually, a huge reason why I picked this one was because Andrea Hanneman, who's AKA Earthy Andy, also is celiac, just like me. So everything in her cookbook is gluten-free. So that was a big draw.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm wondering what type of cookbooks are coming out now that we're out of healthy eating, keto, January, dryuary. I didn't participate in dryuary. I participated in drinkuary.
That should be a thing.
What have you sensed like a theme for what's coming out, or is it just here's all the stuff we couldn't release during the holidays and now woohoo, here we go? Or
yeah, it seems like there is a bit of a transitional phase. So early February, there are some still clean eating cookbooks like Asian Green, Everyday Plant-Based Recipes Inspired by the East. That one looks really interesting and cute. That one's coming out on February 2nd. There's Vegan Fake Out, which also comes out February 2nd. That's also plant-based vegan cookbook, but I kind of like that they're going into more of like the takeout eating. It's not super clean, but it's still, it's somewhat clean, but going into a bit of the comfort food realm, which is perfect. Yay!
We need that because it's still winter and cold. And yesterday I was volunteering and I came home wet and tired and I just wanted some comfort food and something hot in my stomach. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. I get that. And then we've got some fun, unique cookbooks like the Bob's Burger cookbook. I know it sounds really corny, but it's actually kind of an informative cookbook. It's really fun to read through. That's coming out early February, along with a Deadpool cookbook, which I haven't dove into quite yet, but that looks really fun. But as we progress later on into the February months, we get a little more into the dessert cookbooks, which of course is like, perfect.
Was there anything specific for Valentine's Day, or just is that too small of a niche and most cookbook publishers are like,
there's a few Valentine's Day oriented cookbooks, which they have been really cool. We're gonna write we have a blog post out about one of the Valentine's Day cookbooks coming out, but unfortunately some of the other dessert cookbooks that I am looking forward to, which I would rather have before Valentine's Day, are coming out after Valentine's Day.
That happens with Halloween books sometimes. Like one of the main Halloween cookbooks came out in December. I'm like, well, that's great for next year, but I guess you can celebrate Halloween year round. That's true.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. Exactly.
I wanted to show you a book that I bought for you when I was on a recent trip and I was trying to buy local and support this cute little brick and mortar bookstore. And so I got you Ramen Otaku, Mastering Ramen at Home by Sarah Gavigan with Anne Volkwein.
Perfect.
I love ramen, but of course, as a vegetarian, I have to be really choosy about where I go get my ramen. And of course, you being celiac, you can't just go eat random ramen noodles. You have to make sure they don't have gluten. So now you can make your own at home, and I'll give you this when I see you in person with our masks on.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Thank you.
And I will not look through it, but you guys that are listening, if you don't know this, on our Instagram channel, we'll do reels of all of the cookbooks that pass through our hands. We'll do a quick little 15-second flip through so you can see what the pictures look like. Obviously, if there's a cookbook with no pictures, first of all, I don't even buy it. But I occasionally get one from the library accidentally. I'm like, I'm not reading this. I need pictures, so then I just send it back. And speaking of library, I am a heavy holds user. And I like to check out cookbooks from the past that I might have missed because I've only been a cookbook blogger for a year, although I've been a cookbook hoarder for years. So what showed up, and I always forget what I ordered from the library and asked for it. So by the time it comes in like 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I didn't know this existed, even though I asked for it. I got a hold of Procrastinating, 100 recipes for getting nothing done in the most delicious way possible.
Oh my God.
I love it. And it does have cute pictures. I opened right to a little gingerbread house. Yay! And I like to make those for every season, not just Christmas. And I picked up, and this would have been a great book to have this autumn and winter, but it's called When Pies Fly, Handmade Pastries from Strudels to Stromboli, Empanadas to Knishes. And I'm super excited about this cake decorating book called Layered by Tessa Huff. It is going to look gorgeous. You can see us doing a cookbook reel of that on Instagram, and then I'll do an official cookbook look through, and I'll try to show you a lot of the awesome cake pictures. But of course, I need to have a good balance and not show you the whole book because that would be copyright infringement. I picked up a book called Cooking for One, Scaled Recipes, No Waste Solutions, and Time-Saving Tips. This would have been really handy before Bob moved in, and now I'm cooking for 2 every night. But I know a lot of you are stuck home during that pandemic cooking for yourself and going, what am I going to make tonight? So hopefully that cookbook will be fun. And I picked up from the library True Comfort by Kristen Cavallari, the New York Times bestselling author of Balancing in Heels and True Roots. It's more than 100 cozy recipes free of gluten and refined sugar.
Yay!
I'm not trying to stay away from sugar, but I'm definitely packing on some pounds and need to kind of back off of the sugar. Then my last library pickup, let me see. Yes, is Tara Teaspoon, or Tara. I never know if you say Tara or Tara. Have you heard of her, Katie?
No.
Live life deliciously, recipes for busy weekdays and leisurely weekends. And this is exactly the way I like to cook. The weekday, my boyfriend makes breakfast and then I make supper, but it's hard because I work until like 5 p.m. and he comes home at 6. So I have an hour to figure out what am I going to make for dinner. But I still kind of have to vacuum and do some chores and get cooking. So I need this cookbook because on the weekend, I definitely like to have a leisurely weekend and cook a bunch of stuff for the week ahead, like on Sunday, but slowly with a glass of wine in my hands. Did you have any more cookbooks you wanted to tell us about that are coming out in February? And if you guys want to pick up our second episode of our podcast after we record it, we're going to really go through all the March cookbooks because it seems like there's a ton coming out.
Yes, there are, like I said, a ton coming out in March. A few really interesting cookbooks coming out in February are How Wild Things Are, Cooking, Fishing, and Hunting at the Bottom of the World. That kind of snuck up on me a little bit. The cover even is really a bit deceiving, but when you look through the cookbook, it is just absolutely stunning.
What does the bottom of the world mean? Does that mean Antarctica or what?
I'm not entirely sure. It's about Tasmania, actually.
Okay.
Not quite.
Depending on where you're standing, that could be the top of the world.
Right, exactly. So this is just a really interesting, beautiful cookbook. It's a bit rustic. It's got some rugged looking foods in there, but the recipes look really amazing and easy to make. Another really interesting cookbook that's coming out is Africola.
Oh, I've heard of that one. There's a lot of hype about it.
Yeah, and that one seems to be kind of slipping underneath the radar too for some reason, even though it's so unique.
I guess it depends on where you look. I heard of a lot, but I was like, is this about cola? What's going on?
Yeah. This one is about South Africa, and it's really interesting. The author is Duncan Wilgemoed. Oh no, I'm sorry.
We always struggle on that name. Whatever. It's so unlikely that any of these cookbook authors will ever see our tiny podcast or blog, so we're safe.
Yeah, that one's coming out February 2nd. So I'm really looking forward to kind of digging through those recipes before I commit to the whole cookbook, but it looks, really good. The March cookbooks, though, there's going to be a huge, obviously it's a different month. We're stopping with the healthy eats, I think, by that time.
I vote for that, and I'm sure all of our listeners are with us on that. Like, nope.
Right. Yeah. So I appreciate it because not only is it like less healthy eating, but also more international eating, just different kinds of foods, different cookbooks. I know like Jew-ish is a cookbook that lots of people are looking forward to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The Rodney Scott's World of Barbecue, another really exciting cookbook. Serendip, which is a Sri Lankan kitchen cookbook. So there's a lot of really cool cookbooks coming out.
I have only looked through one Sri Lankan cookbook as part of Cookbook Divas videos, which you can see on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, by the way. But I'm looking forward to another because then I can compare them.
Yes. Yeah, that one's a really beautiful book. I've already kind of taken a peek at that one. And then also one more, My Shanghai is coming out March 2nd, which also looks incredible. Having stories and recipes from Shanghai is just so unique, and I really love all of these different international cookbooks that, places that maybe people haven't heard before or recipes they've never tried before. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out.
That's great. I love how you gravitate to the more Asian cookbooks, and I'm always obsessed with the Mediterranean and Middle East ones.
Hey, it's all good. They're all very tasty.
We all have our thing.
It's true. It's so
true. Before we wrap up this podcast today, I wanted to run you guys through the 3 online cooking clubs that we're running in February and March 20th. And people are super excited about it. We're going to do Betty Crocker 101 in February, and we run it in our Facebook group because Instagram doesn't have any groups or discussions or places to put posts or poll, So Betty Crocker 101 is on Facebook. You can find it under Cookbook Divas or just search for Betty Crocker 101 in your Facebook search window. We're going to read the book Finding Betty Crocker, The Secret Life of America's First Lady of Food, and why the company decided to invent this fictional character. And it's the 100th anniversary of Betty Crocker this year because she started off in 1921 doing radio shows and helping people learn to cook. So we will do that. And then the second group, the one most people are super excited about, is the Little House Cooking Club. For fans of Little House on the Prairie, the books in the series, we're going to go through the Little House Cookbook, and any edition that you happen to own or get from the library will work just fine. We're going to be making some cornbread, as you can imagine. We're not going to be out tapping maple trees for syrup. That's a bit advanced. But along the way, we might watch some episodes of the Little House on the Prairie together while we chat using an app called Scener, which you can get at scener.com, spelled SCENER.com. That way we can watch a show together and chat about it. And we'll be doing that in February and March because the cookbook is long enough that we need a couple months to cover it. And we're going to revisit the Little House on the Prairie books, the sections about food in each book, which Farmer Boy has it's hard to read Farmer Boy when you're hungry because they're just describing all this food his mother put on the table. And I'm like, ah! And then in March, we're going to do Julia Child 101 and just kind of learn. It's a month long. It's more of a class than a club. We'll just do a little bit of reading about Julia Child every night, maybe half an hour or an hour, depending on the time that you have. And you're not graded, and it's a free class. And we'll watch some of her old cooking shows. They'll be very entertaining. And then some people can watch Julie and Julia together online if they choose to, again, using the Scener app. I think it'll be really fun. And I'm looking forward to learning more about Julia Child. And did your grandmother watch her, Katie? I think I remember that.
Yeah, she did. And I actually, I got really sick last year, and somebody suggested on Amazon, they had a Julia Child cooking series. They might still have it on there, but I definitely, I've been watching Julia Child too. She's hilarious.
Yeah, what a character.
I love her. It's so cute.
Great. So if you want to sign up for our Betty Crocker 101, Julia Child 101, or Little House Cooking Club, you can find those under Cookbook Divas on Facebook and in our groups section. So let's wrap up for today. We're going to do episode 2 pretty soon with all of the new cookbooks that we're most interested coming out in March. We'd love to hear your feedback in our posts or on our comments on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And we will love to hear from you, and we'll do another podcast next week. It's going to be a big one with all these March cookbooks, hundreds of them.
Yep. Awesome.
Thanks for listening.